Shalom, Grand Rising, Osio, Halito. Welcome to my video. In this video, what I'm going to try to talk about, I'm going to try not to, try not to move away from the. Can't even speak right now. Try not to move away from the mic as much as I did before, because I realized that, when I move back, you guys can barely hear me. And that messes with the audio because I like putting music in my video. So as you guys can see here on the screen are pictures, right? Now, I'm making this video to say that people telling us who we are, I'm talking about people outside of our group telling us who we are, that's dead and gone. That ship done sailed some years ago. Because a lot of us are waking up and realizing who we are, and I'm talking about, there's so many ways you can go with that, but I'm talking about us as indigenous peoples to the Americas. We know who we are, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying all of us do, but there's a lot of us. There are millions of us who know that we're indigenous to these lands. And it's funny because when I bump into random people, they're like, oh yeah, I know that, yeah, I know that, Either they've watched a video from various brothers and sisters on the internet, and they did their research, or it's just something they've always known because of their grandparents, right? And that's essentially the point that I am going to make in this video, is that there's just too much evidence for people to say, okay, this is who you aren't, or this is who you are. No. There's too much evidence showing who we are as a people, and I'm talking about American Negroes. I don't care if you're from the United States, and I'm talking about people's family who can date their family back hundreds of years in these countries, right? I'm talking about people in the United States, people in Canada, people in Mexico, and I'm talking about American Negroes, right? American Negroes in the United States, Canada, Mexico, Central America, South America, the Caribbean, the islands on the Pacific coast of South Central and North America, the islands on the Atlantic coast, right? The American Negroes who can date their family back hundreds of years, their families more than likely go back. Majority of those Negroes their family, they can date their family back thousands of years if they find the paperwork, right? So when it comes to knowing who we are, there's so many avenues that has been trying to tell us. There's so many things that have been trying to tell us for years, decades, who we are, and the main thing is, one of the main things that have been trying to tell us for years who we are is oral tradition, right? And I'm talking about our grandparents, our ancestors, right? Whether they are your auntie, your uncle, your grandmother, your parents, your great grandparents, your great uncle, aunts, what have you. They've been trying to tell us this for years. Like I've said before, I remember when my grandmother used to tell us that we were Indian, and I didn't care about that, right? And that's a lot of people's story today. That's a lot of our stories today, So we have oral tradition. We don't have oral tradition of us coming over from Africa. We just don't have that. And it's not like we don't want to remember it. It's not like, because people remember. People remember. When you look at the Pequot Indians, what happened to them and how they were shipped to the Caribbean, and how even their descendants to this day still talk about that. It's still in their oral traditions. Some of them can even prove their ancestry, right? through all that trauma doesn't make you forget. Trauma doesn't. People remember trauma. Trauma is one thing that's ingrained in us, right? Some people try to say, "Oh no, trauma is going to make them forget." That's why we don't remember our African oral traditions. That's not true. Because when you look at all this history, when you talk to all these different people from around the world, they talk about the trauma that their people went through. It wasn't just, how can I say, it wasn't just so-called African Americans who have went through a form of slavery. Slavery happened all across the world, not just here in the Americas, and yet people still remember the stories because those stories are passed down and people still remember where they came from. I mean, you can look at the situation that happened over there in Australia, how those people over there were killed and subjugated and put into concentration camps, and yet they still remember who they were, even though the Europeans who landed on those lands over there were trying to make them forget who they were also, right? There's stories about that. You can go and see documentaries online how they were trying to do that to people. I even shared a documentary, a clip from a documentary about a brother. His name, I can't remember his name. I think it's like Mubi or something like that. But he was out in the Pacific Islands, and they tried to dupe them out of their own land, telling them that they weren't from that land because it was Terra Nova or something like that. Terra Novella. I said novella, like telenovela. I'm tripping. But anyways, my point is that they try to make them forget about that land, and they knew that was their land, and they even took, I think it was Australia, to court and won that case and got their land back, right? That's the same thing they did to us. So it's like, if we were truly Africans, wouldn't we have stories of Africa? Wouldn't we know what tribes we're from in Africa? The thing is that we don't have that, and that's because we're not from there. It's crazy how we can recount the Irish ancestry we have. We can recount all that through these hundreds of years, right? Because if you look into history, the Irish were slaves too. I kid you not, the Irish were slaves too. They were beaten, they were killed. These foul things were happening to the Irish also, but they don't teach you that in school. You have to actually go and buy books like White Cargo, another book called They Were White and They Were Slaves. You have to go and buy books like that just to find out that history, right? This is why white people all the time like, oh yeah, man, my ancestors were slaves too. Some of their ancestors were slaves. Majority of white people who are here today, majority of them are Germanic. They're Germanic. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Like I said, majority of white people today are Germanic, right? A lot of them descend from the Germans, and some of them have, Scottish, Irish ancestry, but majority of them have a lot of Germanic ancestry, right? And they would be like, oh yeah, I'm Irish and all this, but really they're Germans. When you look at the migrations during the late 1800s, early 1900s, they were bringing in a lot of people from Germany, a lot of people from France, so on and so forth, right? They were bringing in people from Scotland too, and Ireland, but not as much as the Germans. But they don't like to share that bit of history because the Irish came over way earlier than the Germans did. But anyways, I'm not trying to get sidetracked. It's crazy how so-called black people can remember those stories of their Irish ancestors, right? Or their American Indian ancestors, which is more prevalent, right, in our oral traditions and stories. Yet we cannot recount any type of African ancestry, even though the Irish were brought over as slaves and American Indians were turned into slaves. Yeah, we really don't learn too much about that in school, but that happened, and it was very prevalent. They try to say that the American Indian was put into slavery, but they couldn't stand slavery, so they killed themselves off. It's like, that's not how humanity works. People just don't kill themselves off. Most people would rather be miserable than dead. that's just how it is reality. Because if that weren't so, a lot of, if you look through history, we just wouldn't be here because a lot of people were put into slavery, right? So anyways, when you just really sit and think about it, when it comes to the oral traditions of the African American, right? We don't have stories of Africa, not at all, not a tribe, nothing. But when it comes to America, we have all of the stories, right? We can, our grandparents are like, oh yeah, we have this in us, we have that in us. My grandmother was from this tribe, or my grandfather was from this tribe. We have that more so than any other, because some of us so-called black people do have European ancestry, right? But overwhelmingly, we have way more American Indian ancestry, right? And I don't mean that in the sense of Mongolian people, right? I mean, the American Indians look just like us because we are them, right? Just with maybe just a little bit of admixture of European. And then what a lot of people don't know is that a lot of the Europeans that were coming over pre-1800s were actually Negroid, melanated people, right? So we have oral tradition, right? We have the stories of American Indian. We don't have stories of Africa, not at all. I mean, how do you forget that? How do you forget, oh yeah, we came over from Africa? And it's not like, they say, oh, they beat it out of you, they changed your name and all that stuff. That's bullshit. They did it to our ancestors about being Indian. And guess what? They still kept it after these hundreds of years. Still kept tribes and names, right? After hundreds of years. So no, you can't beat an identity out of a person. You can make them submit, but you're not going to make them forget. You can't do that to thousands and millions of people. You just can't do that. It's just too many people. And then just when you break down, the transatlantic slave trade, it just doesn't make sense at all. I don't want to get started on that because, none of it makes sense. When you really sit and think about it, none of it makes sense. How they got over here, how long it takes to get over here, how they package the people on those very small ships. Well, it doesn't make sense. Like, just think about it, how they put them, how they stack them, how they have the pictures of the boats, right? And they put them on those boats. It just doesn't make sense. I made videos before years ago talking about, think about these people. Allegedly, you have hundreds of people stacked on a ship. They're urinating, they're pooping, they're throwing up because of the smells. That alone will make that entire ship a biohazard. People are going to die. That's a walking that's a sailing biohazard, right? They wouldn't last. They wouldn't even last a few weeks on that boat. Everybody be dead. Like I said in my video I made years ago, that boat would literally pull up on shore as a ghost boat. A bunch of corpses on that boat. No one living. Because everybody, and see, that whole situation with, the sickness, right, from 2020, that showed us how these diseases can spread, right? They can spread very rapidly, allegedly, right? So if you think about it like that, how in the hell would you pack a boat with a few hundred slaves and make it over here without everybody dying? It just doesn't make sense, Especially when you think about the food, the water. Where are they keeping the food and water if they're keeping the slaves at the bottom of these boats, right? Where are they keeping the food and water? How are they keeping the ships sanitized? Like, how are they keeping these boats sanitized? I mean, this is back in the 1600s, allegedly. Even though we know that there were so-called, the history books, they tell us that there were Africans, there were slaves over here and African slaves over here before the 1600s, as early as the 1500s, but then they say 1600s. They can never get their story right. And I started to notice this in history. Whenever they can never get the story right, that means because they're trying to cover up a lie. There's a lie there. That's the same thing with Christopher Columbus, how he got so many different names. They don't know where the hell he's from. That's because the guy he's more than likely not real, because they can't get nothing right about him. And it's the same thing with other characters throughout history, right? They can never get the name. They can never get the birth locations right. It's just always a bunch of crap, right? So anyways, get back to what I was saying. The slave trade doesn't make any sense at all. The transatlantic slave trade makes no sense. Was there a slave trade? Yeah, of course. They were shipping Indians from different parts of the Americas to different parts of the Americas, and they were shipping them in small numbers to Europe, right? And that kind of moves me on to the next point. So we have oral tradition, we have those stories in our family. You can literally go down the line of any black person. You can go into any black neighborhood, right? When I say black, just put quotes on it, right? If I say African American, put quotes on it, because I don't have time to do this all the time, right? But you can go into any so-called black American neighborhood, African American neighborhood, and you can choose any black person you want that's in their 20s and 30s, and they will tell you that their parent, grandparent, family member, whoever told them that they have Indian in them. I will say 99.9% of African Americans will tell you, yeah, we have we have Indian in us, right? You won't find a person who will tell you, yeah, my grandparent told me that we have African in us. We have this and that in us, right? It's going to be hard to find that. The people who told us that we're African are people who don't even know our genealogy, right? Those are the people who are going to tell you that you're African. We have only been told that we're African by people who don't know us. I mean, we're the only group of people on the planet, I'm talking about American Negroes, who are told by other people what we are, while they identify themselves as they please. But we're no, you so-called American Negroes, no, you're not this, you are African. And it's like, well, what proof do you have? You have absolutely no proof. Well, we have slave ships. There's no proof of slave ships at all. There's no proof. They're trying so hard to fabricate this Clotilda thing, and they still can't even. I don't know. Maybe it's just the effort. Maybe they're just not putting enough effort into to fake the Clotilda thing. I don't know. But they're trying so hard, and still they come up with nothing. Nothing. Like they were parading this Clotilda thing for like the past few years, and still nothing. Nothing. Not a single slave ship. Yet we still have, at least we still have, pieces of ships that existed, a few hundred years ago. I mean, we still actually have parts of ships that existed, that were built a few hundred years ago. Yet we don't have slave ships though. It's like, what's going on here? What's going on here? It doesn't make any sense. So, when you look at, and this is another thing too, we don't have to lie about this stuff. I mean, I know you have people out there, especially, your natives, right? The ones who look like Hispanics, right? Because essentially they are Hispanics. They're nothing more than, Mongolian and European, Caucasian mixed with maybe a little bit of us in them. You know what I'm saying? But that's essentially what they are. But these particular group of people, they hate when we bring out the truth. They really do. Not all, but a majority of them do. They say that we're stealing their history, we're stealing their culture. Well, first of all, most of those people who claim to be Native Americans, most of them live out in the Southwest. Majority of them do not live out here out east. It's so funny how they say, oh, you guys are blackwashing and all this stuff. You're trying to make Pocahontas look like you and all. Well, hold up. First of all, there were thousands of different nations and tribes here in the Americas. You don't, just because you are Lakota, if that's what you want to claim, that's not the same thing as Powhatan. The culture is so different. I mean, the food they ate is different. The clothing that they wore, different. The structures that they wore, different. The religious systems that they had, or spiritual systems that they had, different. The gods that they worship, different. And that even varied with tribes on that were east of the Mississippi. All of them didn't share the same cultures, right? So it's like, how dare you sit there and try to own everyone? That's like saying everybody in Eurasia are the same people. Everybody here on this continent weren't the same people. Now, I can tell you this, that the original peoples on this continent called the Americas, they were all Negroid people, right? But they had different nations, different cultures, right? But they were still American Indians. Just like over in Eurasia, or Afro-Eurasia, if you will. Because all that landmass is connected, yet you see all those various different peoples over there. Different phenotypes, different cultures, different spiritual systems, all of that, right? Different clothing, different foods. You can't sit there and say that all of them are the same people. That someone in Spain owns the culture down in South Africa or in China because all that land is connected. No, that does not make sense at all. So you Mongoloid natives who sit there and say, oh, you're still in our culture because y'all trying to look like Pocahontas, or y'all trying to claim Pocahontas is no, Pocahontas is not your people. It's funny because I had to tell a chick in person who is a Native American. I had to tell her that, like, no, those are not the same people. Sacagawea and Pocahontas, not the same people. Not the same people. Totally different. One's over here, one's over here, right? But anyways, most of these so-called natives who get on our videos, they're just haters, they're just trolls. And the thing is that we don't care. I mean, honestly, we don't care. We make videos like this just to address, the trolls, but also to educate our people. More importantly, I make these videos to educate my people and to help my people combat the hatred of these trolls, right? Because, but like I said, most of us, we're at the point to where we're like, we know who we are. We know who we are. We have oral tradition. We have genealogy. Like I have a bunch of American Indian ancestors in my genealogy on my family tree. Recently, I just found a Muskogee ancestor, right? And this ancestor was hilarious. So I'm not sure if I disclosed it, but I think I may have in my last video that my mother's maiden name is Bruner. So if you're familiar with the Muskogee and even the Yamasee and the Seminole, you know that the Bruners are, I wouldn't say prominent, but the Bruners is one of the families that's known. If you look into Yamasee, Seminole, Muskogee history or genealogy, whatever you want to call it, right? So my fourth great grandfather, his name was Robert Bruner. This guy, he was a little hot here, I can tell. That's probably where I get some of that from. But I was looking at a news clipping, and This ancestor turned up, man. I read in this news clipping that him and his neighbor had a shootout. Like they were walking down the road, I guess having an argument, and they just started shooting at each other. And both of them were poor aims. They didn't kill or even shoot each other at all. But it's just hilarious, right? This is back in the 1800s. I want to say like late 1800s, early 1900s when this took place. But his grandfather was a Muskogee Indian, right? I mean, my fourth great grandfather, he knew what he was. He claimed to be Muskogee Indian, right? But his great grandfather fought alongside the Yamasee and the Yamasee Wars, right? So that's very interesting. But that was the most recent indigenous ancestor I found. I mean, I have several tribes, ancestors that I found in various different tribes in the Carolinas and Virginia area, right? But that's just one of the latest ones. So a lot of us can actually prove who we are. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know about, I'm sure some of y'all, if y'all do research, especially in the Yamasee and the Seminoles, y'all know about Caesar Bruner. He was a chief for the Seminoles. And shout out to Chief Sekou, I believe that's what his name is, of the Yamasee Nation. Shout out to him. You know, nothing but love and respect for you. However, I do not agree with you, brother. This is no beef at all. Don't take this as a beef. It's just love. It's all love. I don't agree with him on what Seminole means. And what I mean by that is, yeah, Seminole means mixed. A mixed group of people, right? He was on he did a video with him and his cousin, I think like last week, right? I think it was from a week ago. It could be older. So don't quote me on this, on the age of the video. But he had mentioned that it means, Seminole means mixed because it was mixed because the Seminoles consisted of people who were mixed with African and Indian, right? And that they had Africans in there too, African slaves. See, that's not correct. The reason why they were called Seminoles is because they had several different tribes mixed. And I'm talking about American indigenous tribes mixed into that confederacy, right? Which we know as the Seminoles, right? The Seminole Confederacy. You had Muskogee, you had Yamasee, you had Yuchi, and you had several different tribes that were in that nation or in that confederacy, if you will, right? That's why they were called the Seminoles, right? Because they were a mixture of tribes, not because the people in the tribe in that confederacy were mixed race. That wasn't what it is, right? That's not what it is. So I disagree with him on the meaning of, Seminole, because when you look into the history, when you literally look into the history of the Seminoles, you don't see Africans there. You see different tribes. You see various American Indian tribes in there, right? So I just wanted to say that. But yeah, I mean, we have genealogy, right? We have genealogy. And like I said, Caesar Bruner, he was a chief of the Seminole tribe. That is my cousin. That would be my sixth great grandparent is Caesar Bruner's parents' siblings. I believe it's, so Robert Bruner, his great grandfather, are siblings with his father, right? His parents. So it's a very small world. I mean, it really is. I mean, I have family, of course, still in the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida with that last name, and also here in Ohio, where a lot of us moved to also. But also we have family who moved out to Oklahoma. We have family that moved out to Texas. A lot of family moved out to Texas, actually. And that was during the Trail of Tears. That happened to our people. That didn't happen to these Mongoloid people at all. They can't prove none of this. See, the funny thing is that these natives, and don't take this as me being a racist, because I don't hate any race, honestly. I don't. I just hate evil people. The thing is that these natives, they can't prove their genealogy. They can't prove that they were these people out east of the Mississippi. They can't do that at all. Okay? They just can't. And I'll get more into who these people are towards the end of the video, or just later on in the video. But we have oral tradition, the so-called American Negroes. We have oral tradition. We have genealogy. A lot of us can prove who we are. If we just put in the work, we can find ancestors, you know, who were part of these tribes that suddenly disappeared and wiped out by disease and all this stuff. No, we were just reclassified. We were beaten in war. Our lands were taken. And for the most part, our identity and our cultures were taken. A lot of us just assimilated into Western culture, right? And they did it through these Indian schools. After they killed off a lot of the adults, they took the children, put them in these Indian schools, aka churches, aka boarding schools, aka African schools, and all this shit that you see. You know, you see those pictures of these boarding schools and these churches where they have all these little kids and stuff like that. Those were the indoctrination centers, just like how they are today, just like how schools are today, right? And they were taking us from being American Indian to being African American. That's what they were doing, to Negro, black, whatever. They were erasing us of our history, you know. But yeah, like I said, we have, you know, oral tradition, we have genealogy, but also we have descriptions from Europeans. We have descriptions from Europeans where they tell you what American Indians look like. Look at, what is his name? De Verrazano. I forget his name. Forget his first name. But when you look at his quote, he tells you what the American Indian looked like. Hell, Christopher Columbus tells you what the American Indian looks like. It's very hard to find his quotes. But when you look at the description from John Smith of Pocahontas, he tells you what she looks like. He tells you that she's dark-skinned and has an afro. She has bushy hair. Those so-called natives out there in Oklahoma, those are the pretendians for the most part. They don't have those descriptions. They don't have dark copper colored skin tones. They just don't. Most of them are pale as hell. You know what I'm saying? They're not copper colored, right? You know, but yeah, I mean, when you look at the descriptions of American Indians, they're described as Negroes. Pocahontas' sister and father were described as being black, jet black, right? That's how they were being described as Negroes. You know, it's like, why is it that in the early 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, American Indians are being described as Negroes? And now all of a sudden, in the 18 and early 1900s, they become Mongolians. They become Asiatic. How does that happen? How does that happen? I'll get into it though. But we have all these things, you know, to prove who we are. This is why I'm saying that shit done sell, where they're trying to shame us into accepting people who we are. See, this is the thing. For all the Africans who are listening, we don't hate you guys. If we were African, we would accept it. But we never accepted it because it's not who we are. You know, salute to the Africans out there who love their culture and who are proud of who they are. Salute to you guys. There are some, however, there are quite a bit of Africans, especially particularly West Africans, who are not even truly Africans. They're actually from the Americas. They are American Indians that were shipped over there, you know, during the colonial era. But anyway, speaking of the colonial era, you have, you know, not only the descriptions of the American Indian being Negroes, you have painting. We all know about the brother Tecumseh, right? Let me try to find it real quick. Where's that, right? We all know about Tecumseh's brother. Well, this is supposed Tecumseh's brother right here. Hopefully it comes up. My computer would be acting slow at times, man. Maybe I'll just looks like it's trying to do something. I don't know what's up with this photo. Okay, I'm just gonna blow it up right here. Now this guy right here, hopefully my video, I can't see my cell phone screen. Anyways, let me just pull it right here. Maybe y'all can see it better like that, right? This is supposed to be Tecumseh's brother, right? Shit. Now Tecumseh, he was an Iroquois, but I can't remember what nation he's from specifically. He was in the Midwest area, right? They taught us a lot about Tecumseh here in Ohio because I believe some of his battles were fought here in the Ohio area, right? But this is the whitewash. Look, he looks just like a Mexican, right? Hey, Holmes. And I don't say that to be funny, like, you know, but seriously, he looks like an Asian, right? This is supposed to be Tecumseh's brother. Well, this is what they sell you of American Indians supposed to look like, right? Y'all want to see what Tecumseh's brother really looked like? He didn't look like this. Boom. Here you go, right here. With Shawnee. Shawnee Indians did exist here. Those ancestors did exist here in the Ohio area. We have a lot of locations here in Ohio that are named after the Shawnee, but this is him right here. This is his brother. Let me see if I can, because I can't. Let's at least blow this picture up. I don't know what the hell is going on right now. Oh, that was a picture trying to pop up. I don't know what's wrong with this app. Like this is Windows photo app, and for some reason it just doesn't want to work. Let me see if I can open it with something else, another program. Okay, open with. Okay, let's see if we can open it with this. Okay, let's zoom in. If I can even zoom in. So here we go, magnifying. Look at it. This is Tecumseh. Look at it. There's the one missing eye. I forget his name exactly, right? Let's see, look. This is him. And where's the fake one at? I was just on the fake one. Where's the fake guy at? Right here. Look at it. Look at it. Look at this. I mean, look at this, man. Like, that's pathetic, man. Look. Yo, that's hilarious. Version of him, right? And this is the real version of him. A Negro. See, we don't have to fake this stuff. See, me, the truth is the truth. I don't know why people cannot accept the truth. It is what it is. We don't have to make this shit up. And by the way, this engravement was made in the 1800s. So all of you guys who sit here and say, you know, let me go back to this. When y'all say, you know, photos like this, statues like that, these are nothing more than allegory. When y'all sit here and say that this is allegory, you say all this stuff is allegory, right? When y'all sit there and say that this stuff is allegory, I always say, hey, I mean, because look, we got oral tradition, we have we have description, you know, in the journals of these explorers / colonizers, right? But then we have these paintings, we have these statues, right, of American smoking tobacco, smoking marijuana, picking a cornucopia, right, with American vegetables, right? We have all that stuff. But then when we oh, that's allegory. Well, it's like that's allegory, but what about this? What about this? See, this is the thing I want to point out. When it comes to y'all sit there and say it's allegory because you're like these artists, they never went to the Americas. First of all, y'all never proved that to be true. I've never proven that to be true, that these artists never visited the Americas. But even still, even if that were true, guess what? That art that was painted in the 1600s in those cathedrals over in Europe, those artists didn't have to travel to the Americas to see American Indians. Why? Because by the 1600s, even in the 1500s, they were already shipping American Indians over to Europe. Most of these artists, they got to paint in the cathedrals and made these statues for prominent families and royalty. Guess what? They got favor. They got fee. So in these prominent families, so they were allowed to come and see these American Indians and get to visit them and get to paint them and create sculptures of these indigenous Americans. So they didn't have to travel to the Americas to see American Indians. This is all documented, that they brought American Indians to Europe and brought them to the royalty and prominent family, and essentially had them like as little sideshows, like, you know how they would ship people across the country in these little freak shows and show them off. That's what they did to the American Indians also, right? Because our regalia, our clothing was so different. We were so different as a people compared to them, right? So they would show us off. So my point is that these artists, they didn't have to go, even if they didn't, say if they did, because we don't know. They didn't have to go to the Americas to see an American Indian. It's that simple. But still, how do you explain this right here, though? This engravement, and all engravements come from paintings, right? This engravement right here is from the 1800s, well after the colonizers arrived here. You mean to tell me then they still don't know what an American Indian looked like? Is that where we want to go? We just want to still cling on to the lie and just sink into the hole, which is cognitive dissonance? Is that what we want to do? Because there's no way you can say that this is allegory, right? You can't say that. Then some people will try to say, oh, well, they just depicted him as black because black was seen as evil and all this stuff. So they depicted the American Indians as black and this and that and blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, the first descriptions of the American Indian were that of Negroes. And when Chris and his boys came over, and other explorers too, they were talking about how godly these people were and how peaceful these people were. And how these people were just like in very peaceful, calm states. They were good to their people and all this stuff. They were very godly people. I mean, that's what Chris and his boys said, and other explorers said too. So why would they depict them or describe them as being Negroes or depict them as being Negroes, aka black, yet they were described as peaceful? So that theory doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense because they were described as good people. So why would they see? It just doesn't make sense, honestly. When you break down the logic of these people, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to them either, but they just got to keep trolling. They have to keep trolling because that's the only way. That's their self-defense. And it's really pathetic. It's sad at the end of the day that they can't just accept truth, because the thing is that they're being lied to. And they've been told, especially these natives, they've been told that this is their land, and it's not. They've been given false history. We all have. And what some of them, a lot of them don't understand is that this is a setup. Now, I shared in a video before that in a lot of these tribes, especially the ones who get money, their leaders are Freemasons. They're Freemasons. So they're going to keep that shit in secrecy. They don't want the truth to come out. And they're going to even want to lie to people that's a part of their organizations who don't know better, right? They're going to keep that lie going. Tell me what native in any of these tribes today do you know look like this man? This is an American Indian from the 1800s. This is Tecumseh, brother. Now, they always depict Tecumseh as a light-skinned, Asiatic, white-looking guy. But this is his brother. His brother right here. You never hear anything about his brother having African in him, anything like that, right? Like I said, you know, when you point out the consistency of things and it doesn't add up, that's how you know there's an issue. You know, with Crispus Attucks, how they always say, "Oh, he's the first African American." Wait, no, he's an Indian. No, he's African American. Oh, he's Indian. He was Indian. He was us. The reason why that happens is because he was American Indian, but he looked like us because that's what an American Indian looked like in his origin, right? It's the same thing with what's the sister who was in the Salem witch trials? I can't think of her name right now. But when they're talking about that sister, oh, she was an Indian. Oh, she was an African. Oh, she was an Indian. She was an African. Same thing with Christopher Columbus, Christopher Colombo, Cristoforo Colombo, Zarco, all these different names. Oh, he was born in Italy. Oh, he was born in Spain. Oh, he was really from Portugal. And they can never get it right because they just got so many lies entangled. They just can't get their stories right. All right? So like I said, us so-called American Negroes, we have oral tradition, we have genealogy, we have descriptions of early Europeans describing American Indians, we have art from the 1500s up to the 1800s, even some of the early 1900s, depicting American Indians as Negroes, right? You can't get around this stuff. This is why I'm like, that shit done sell. I know people are gonna be mad about it. It is what it is. We're waking up to who we are. And see, the thing is, I know that there's some people out there who say, "Oh, we're better than you. We're better than this and that." I'm not here to do that. I'm here to say, and a lot of us are here to say, this is our land. We're not saying that we're better than anyone, because look at the situation we're in right now, right? We're saying that this is our land. We have the rights to our land. So much has been built off of our backs. Yes, we built America. We built America before there was even a country called the United States, Mexico, Guatemala, Peru, Canada, North and South Central, whatever. We were here. We had civilizations here. No, we didn't live like cave people. That's a whole damn lie. That's a part of the lie. That we were these cave people who had no civilization. That was all part of the hijack. Okay? That was all part of the hijack. And part of that hijack was that they were going to bring in another group of people who were going to replace us. There's documentation out there. Shout out to the brother Sosoliha. Shout out to what's the other brother's name? Researcher guy, he's another one. Shout out to them brothers because they both shared documentation showing how they were shipping Asians over here in the 1800s to replace us, literally to replace us. You know, they say they were bringing them over here for the railroads and all that stuff. No, they were literally bringing them over here to make them, to change them into American Indians. Them brothers both shared documentation in their video showing how they were taking Filipinos, they were taking Chinese, and they were putting them in American Indian regalia and telling them, you are now American Indian. Do you ever wonder why these Mongolian tribes exist in the West? The reason being is because that's the closest route from Asia to the Americas. They brought those people over here on boats, on ships, brought them over here to various parts, not just only the United States. They did it in Central America and South America. Brought them over here and told them that you are now American Indian, because they did the same thing in Mexico. There's books on them, of them doing it in Mexico too. So they did it in Latin America also. They did it in Peru, they did it in Mexico, they did it in the United States, where they told these people that they were going to be American Indian. Literally, they were bringing people over here from the Philippines, putting them in American regalia, American Indian regalia, and telling them you're now American Indian, and documenting them as American Indian. This is why when you look at people like Sitting Bull, this is why they look like Filipinos. Literally, if you cut Sitting Bull's hair, take him out of the regalia, put him in regular clothes, he'll look like a Filipino. He will look like a Filipino. This guy that I was just showing you right here. See if I can find the image. If I can go back to it. This guy right here looks like a Filipino. He looks like he looks like the Asiatic Filipino. I'm not talking about the Negroid Filipinos. I'm talking about the Asiatic Filipinos. This dude looks like a Filipino. Looks like a Filipino. Because that's who they replaced us with. So all damn near all those so-called natives out there, they were told this is who you are, and this is your history, this is your land, this is what happened to you, this is how you got here. Keep telling your children that. And like I said, a lot of their leaders were Freemasons, because it wasn't just so-called Asians out there in those tribes. They also had white people out there in those tribes too, the ones that were teaching them. You know, those so-called traders that were there trading with them and stuff like that out there. No. Those are fucking Freemason trainers training these people and indoctrinating these people, giving them our history. That's what they were doing, giving them our history and our land. Most of those people out there, they are not American Indian at all. And it's so sad because you have brothers and sisters today who are in various tribes east of the Mississippi who wants to associate themselves with those people out there because they don't know the history. Like I said, shout out to Sosaliha and the researcher guy, because both of them show very good videos with documentation showing how they were replacing us with Asians. I mean, literally bringing them off the boat and saying, you're American Indian, stamping it, American Indian. And then they're putting them off in reservations and stuff on the West Coast, out in the Southwest. I mean, absolutely crazy. Y'all seen that movie called Shanghai Noon, right? With Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson. And they showed that scene where Jackie Chan, I think he got, I'm not sure if he got kidnapped by a tribe. I got kidnapped by a tribe, and they put him in Indian regalia. Oh, they knew what they was doing with that scene. They knew what they was doing. They was telling us that that's what they did. So yeah, you know, I mean, look at this. Look at this. Now look at this brother right here. Let me see if I can open this in Paint also. Let me see if I can open this in Paint too. All right. Look at this. Now, we've seen pictures of this guy. The pictures that you usually find of him is super whitewashed. Let me see if I can find a bigger one. But see, this is stuff they're not going to show you. And mind you, this is an Oto chief. I actually have this book, by the way. I'm going to make a video of this book soon. I have this Oto chief, right? But see, they're not going to show you these. They're not going to show you these Negroes, right? They're going to show you this. This is what they want you to see. They're not going to show you the American Negroes, right? They're not going to show you this. I think I have this in my book too, right? And these are Iroquois Indian, right? These are Negroes. But they're not going to show you that stuff, right? So, anyways, you know, whenever the scoffers, you know, like arguing, like, oh man, well, this and that and blah, 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 blah. You know, I always like, okay, well, you know, okay. We told you that we have the oral tradition. We told you we have the genealogy, the descriptions from the Europeans during the colonial era, the paintings from the Europeans during the colonial era. It's like, usually when I talk to them about that, they get stuck. But then some of them like, oh, well, I just don't buy it, blah, 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 blah. That's just how they depicted the American Indian and stuff. But it's like, well, it's like, have you ever heard of the Bonaparte murals and how they depicted themselves as Negroes? Let me see if I can go through it real quick. Find it real quick. Yeah. Look at this. Look how the Mayan depicted themselves. I guess they thought they were evil, right? They thought themselves to be evil. So it was like, you know, We don't even have this European concept of what evil is, but we're just gonna inherit it from. We're just gonna bring it over through astral projection and depict ourselves as black because we're just evil. That makes no sense at all. So you mean somebody the Mayan didn't know who the hell they were? They didn't know how to depict themselves. They were just so backwards. Like these guys, how they're a bit backwards. They're just so backwards. They don't know how to depict themselves. And another thing about those pictures too, right? The ones that's over in Europe that people say are allegory and all that stuff. It's like, okay, these people knew how to. They didn't know how to depict the American Indian. However, they knew how to depict American fruits and vegetables that they never seen before. I mean, in the early 1500s, I mean, they have paintings of Indians holding corn. All that is allegory, right? And those mausoleums, all that is allegory, but yet they got the vegetable that's indigenous to America correct, but they couldn't get the people correct. I mean, just make it make sense, though. But look, the Mayan, they depict themselves as Negroes, right? But this is allegory, right? This is allegory. That's complete allegory. This is allegory, right? Because there's a lion right there. That's allegory. That's allegory. Even though there were lions over here, most of them were killed off. All this is just allegory. All of that is allegory, right? But then again, you have this right here. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. I guess this is allegory right here. Look at that. Look at that. You can't tell me that that's not a Negro. Look at those puffs. Look at these people. These are Mayans. These aren't Africans. And people get mad because I make this type of art, right? People get mad because I make this type of art. People are like, oh no, you can't do that. Oh, you're pretending, you're making false history and all this stuff. No. That is what American Indians look like. I'm just making it in the 21st century. Look just like the ancestors that was bent backwards. Look just like the ancestors. Work that shit done sell. You can try to convince whoever the hell you want, but somebody like me who's educated, a lot of us are starting to pop up, right? You cannot convince me otherwise, right? Look at it. I mean, look. I mean, let me. Look at this. The headdress is almost exactly the same. Look at them, right? This is how the Mayan depicted themselves. Now look how I depicted them. Exact same. I see no problem with it because that is how you depict an American Indian. Right there. That's an American Indian. Don't care what a hater says. You can't convince me. You can't convince me. It's so much evidence there. That's why I say that the evidence is overwhelming. I mean, if this was a court case, I would have proven my case. These little natives, I don't care who you throw at me. Throw anybody at me. Throw these Afrocentrics at me. They cannot prove. They wouldn't win that case at all. The case would be like, oh, yeah, y'all, okay, just get the fuck out of here. This man, he proved this case. This is why I depict the American Indian as such. American Indians, man. That's an American Indian. Y'all can sit there and say pretending all you want. It doesn't hurt my feelings because I know what it is. And I know that if we were to have a debate, which I don't do debates, by the way, because there's a lot of... I feel like debates, for the most part, are useless. Yes, at times they can help people who are in the middle to learn. But my thing is, why waste your time going back and forth, losing your train of thought, being cut off and all that stuff, when you could just make a video teaching people. They can, the other side, they can teach whatever the hell they want over there. I'm gonna be over here teaching what I know. You know, and like I said, I live this shit. You know what I'm saying? I live it. You can see my poncho back there with the Aztec ancestor on it. You know what I'm saying? This is a lifestyle, man, because it's real. This is not pretend. I mean, yeah, people can feel how they want. I know it hurts feelings. I know, because we've been lied to. How do you think I felt when I found out that I've been lied to about everything? That shit hurt. You know what I'm saying? That shit hurt. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to actually do the research and find out who I am. Right? And it's the same thing with anybody. Everybody needs to find out who they are. And see, this right here, you know who this painting was created by? It was created by Diego something. He was a Mexican artist. He was a European Mexican artist, right? He was a Mexican with a lot of European in him. You can go look at the picture. He was married to the woman named Frida, very famous woman in Mexico, right? This is how he depicted the Mayans. We see his paintings. His paintings is in a museum in Mexico. He depicted the Mexicans as Negroes, as they were. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, come on, man. Miss us with the bullshit of, oh, that's allegory. Here's some other murals from the Bonaparte murals, right? The Mayans. See? Negroes. So they can sit there and be as mad as they want. Look at these Negroes, right? Look at these Negroes. Y'all can sit there and be as mad as you want. Look. Look at the king of, I think he was the king of Spain, or maybe Portugal. Right, and look at the like Incan emperor, right? See that? Look at American Indian, right? And then right here, there's American Indian right here. This was a painting from, I want to say, the 1700s, and this was an artist that was actually here in the Americas depicting, you know, American Indian, the Chippewa. So it's like, come on, man, miss us with all that goofy, you know. They try to say, oh, see, he's in the Mongoloid. There's a Mongoloid. Here's our people right here, right? But yeah, I mean, it's just so much. Oh, look at him. That's a Negro right there. That is a Negro. And it's so funny because you have some people who say, like, oh, y'all aren't the Mayans, y'all don't have the phenotype. It's like, look at the Olmec heads. Shout out to Caremio. You know, I may not agree with Caremio on everything, but I ain't got nothing but love and respect for that man. But just like Caremio shared, the so-called Olmecs that we know of are not the actual Olmecs. They're actually Paleo-Mayan. They're the exact same people as the Mayan. They're just the ancestors of the Mayan, right? And we see how they look. You know, look at this too. I always find this interesting. How they have African, they have American. Both of them are Negroid people, right? But it's so funny because, you know, people be like, oh, you know, y'all, there's another Mayan, right? And see, this is exactly what I was just about to talk about. They be like, well, look at his nose, man. Y'all don't have noses like that. No, everybody don't have noses like that. Even so-called wannabe natives don't all have what they call alkaline noses, right? Like I mentioned in another video of mine, my dad has an alkaline nose. I don't. I have my mom's nose. My wife, dad, has an alkaline nose. Or as they told him when he was in the military, he has an Indian nose, right? But my wife doesn't. She has her mother's nose, right? So it just varies. And yeah, there are a ton of black people with alkaline nose. I'm talking about beaks, man. Fucking beaks. And look, I have this little photo right here. Look at this. Look at black I mean, I mean, come on now. I mean, I mean, I mean, I always thought this photo was hilarious, right? And then y'all be like, well, what about the figurines, the Asiatic guys? The Asiatic guys. This is my friend. This is my high school friend. This is his son. You know, it is what it is, right? Look, you can't tell me black people don't have those noses. Like, y'all don't have those noses. Y'all don't have those noses. Y'all don't. What are y'all talking about? Not everybody of a particular group of people have the same noses. You know, they try to argue that those are Mexicans. They try to say, oh, us Mexicans have those noses. No, not all Mexicans have those noses. Mexicans have, some of them have very wide noses, flat noses. Some of them have aquiline noses, just like Europeans. Even Europeans, not all Europeans have aquiline noses and features. You know what I'm saying? That's just a feature that some people have, some people don't have. You know what I'm saying? You have so-called African Americans with those noses. You have some of them who don't have those noses. And like I showed y'all in the picture, you know, even the Mayan, not all the Mayans have those type of noses, right? Here's the one I was at. Y'all saw it earlier with, I'll probably find it. It's one out here somewhere. Yeah, you had some brothers who had it, some brothers who don't have it, right? Like, look at their noses. They don't have the aquiline noses, right? They don't have those big noses that they always try to make seem like the Mayan and the Aztecs had. No, they're just doing that to try to disassociate them from us. That's why, you know, like in your modern day renditions of Aztecs, they always have them with the big noses, or the American Indian with the big noses, because they're trying to disassociate them away from us, right? Where's the other one at? Anyways, y'all saw the ones from earlier. I think it's this one right here. Like that. Yeah. Not all of them have the hook nose, as you call it, right? Not all of them have hook noses. Right? You have some who do, some who don't. Let me see. David Ingram. That's actually, he actually describes the American Indian as being Negroes too. He's one of the guys who went through some shit over here, man. But he describes, David Ingram, he describes the Americas, right, as being like a place full of civilization, man. Full of civilization. But anyways, guys, this has been long enough. It's just, you know, it's really hilarious though, just seeing how people try to argue and say, oh, this is why y'all stealing people's culture and why y'all doing this and that. Like, I literally had a guy on the last video I made with the photos, and there was a guy on there saying like, he was saying like, oh yeah, you guys, I don't know why y'all feel like you have to take other people's culture. Like, be proud of your own culture. And it's like, what culture is that? African culture? That's not our culture. If it was, we'd be proud of it. But that's just not who we are. I mean, there's overwhelming evidence of who we are, and you know, a lot. I'm very proud of the brothers and sisters who are standing up and they're living their truth. They're living their truth. You know, I live the truth too. You know what I'm saying, of who we are, and it is what it is. You know, they try to depict. They have done a very good job at confusing the world, right? And a lot of that has to do with, you know, manipulation of portraits and photos, how they will lighten up portraits and even change features on there to try to make them look to fit the narrative. They try to give them a look to fit the narrative, which is very sad. And you know those black and white photos that they show of American, Native Americans like Sitting Bull and stuff like that in the 1800s. You know, I put nothing past these people. You know, the technique of Photoshop existed back in the 1800s. It existed. You know what I'm saying? Like, they could literally remove the head off of somebody, put another head onto the person. They could put another in their arm, all types of stuff. We've seen those type of photos, and they admit that that type of technology did exist back then, right? I mean, we see how far they go where they lighten up pictures of people, right? I mean, they will literally lighten up a picture of someone to try to fit their narrative. Let me see if I can find some more these photos. This is probably one of my favorite photos right here, but look how they lighten this up. This is the same guy right here, right? Look how they lighten that up. Absolutely pathetic. Now let me see if I can find the actual portrait. Okay, here's another one right here. See how they lightened him up to try to make him look mongoloid? This is what he actually looked like. Look, here's the before and after. So this is the original, and this is the lightened up. It's not exactly whitewashed, but they lightened up. Look how dark he was, right? And that's the little picture that I was trying to show y'all guys earlier of him. Where is it? I couldn't blow it up as big as I wanted to. So that picture is very small. See, this is him right here. That's him right there, dark, right? And then this is the same picture. Where is it at? Right here. See? This is just the before. See how dark he is? See how dark he is, just like the other one? And here's the lighten up version of that, right? Trying to make him look like a mongoloid. I mean, it's really pathetic. Look at it. Look at this. And this is, I believe this is supposed to be Logan, Chief Logan. Of the Wyandotte. I think he was Wyandotte. Look at this shit. Like, come on. Like, are you kidding me? Like, really? Y'all really trying to play us like that? Like, but I'm trying to find this picture right here, right? Because they lying this brother. This is brother right here that's on this shirt right here. He's dark skinned, but they went through and lightened up everyone in that photo. Let me see if I can find it. But like I said, you know, they have that technology, you know, to whitewash photos and even to manipulate, well, whitewash paintings and to even manipulate, you know, photos from the 1800s. Let me see. So yeah, that's why I don't put nothing past these people, man. They come out here and, you know, manipulate things. I'm mad that I can't find that photo, because this is actually one of my favorite photos right here. But this brother was he was a warrior. I think he was I can't remember what tribe he's from. Look at those Negroes. That's how the Mayans depicted themselves. Now look at this Negro right here. Okay, 1730s. These motherfuckers been here, right? That's how they depicted them, the Indian, right? So look at these people. Look at these Negroes, man. Look at these Negroes, right? Look at it. Look at the hair. Got an afro back there, wearing braids. Look at this. Come on. How do y'all get around that? How do y'all try to get around that, right? I mean, come on. Look at them. Look at them smoking weed. Them brothers is smoking, man. They ain't playing. They ain't playing. Look at this. Where is... Oh, here it is, right here. There we go. Jesus Christ. Now look at him. Look at that Negro, right? Oh man. Look at this Negro right here, right? Look at him. Look at these Negroes, right? Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Beautiful, man. I love seeing it, right? But anyways, look at him. Now look. Why go through the trouble of just let it be what it is? They fucked up so much that they even took detail away from the other one. Notice his headband, right? You see how he has this piece right here? Look, they fucked up so bad. They whitewashed the image, destroyed the image, that they had to like, oh well, I guess we lost that to the whitewash. But they got rid of some of the features because they had to lighten up shit and change things, man. I mean, just absolutely pathetic, man. Pathetic. They even added shit like it looked like they added a fucking second ring around his neck and pathetic. What probably happened, I don't know. I don't know what they did lighten up the photo, but look, I mean, even the feathers aren't even the same color. This probably was just a recreation of this right here. Absolutely pathetic, man. Oh man, yeah. This is nothing but allegory. This is allegory. That is allegory. Complete allegory. But then you'd be like, well, what is that? Oh, that's a Negress right there. That's a Negress right there. Oops, that's a little Negro boy. It's like, well, what are those? Little Negro boy, Indian. Uh-oh. What happened? Here's a painting from 1700s. Oop, what is those right there? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, what is that? What is that right there? Yeah. They can't explain a lot of this shit, man. What is that? Oh, what is that? So yeah. Anyways, I thought it'd be fun to make this video because, you know, it's just, and this is Winnipeg Jack, by the way, Blackfoot Indian. And here is the Yamasee War, right? My ancestor fought in this war. That's the crazy thing when I think about it, man. Like, my ancestor was somewhere on that battlefield fighting. Man, it's crazy. The Carolinas, man. The Carolinas. That's where my family was. But look at these Negroes. I mean, it's just like you they can sit there and they can lie all they want, but they're not proving anything. They can't prove anything. They just can't. But anyways, I think I proved my point. You know, and this video isn't for the trolls. It's for my people, so they can look at videos like this, and now they know how to navigate these trolls. Like, we know who we are. You're not going to convince Dane Calloway that he's an African. He knows who he is. He knows that he's American Indian. You're not going to convince the researcher guy that he's an African. He knows who he is. He knows he's an American Indian. I mean, we have a plethora of evidence. I mean, damn. It's like, it's sometimes, honestly speaking, sometimes it's overwhelming because there's so much evidence proving who we are. It's so much evidence proving who we are. And at times it's very overwhelming. And it's just like, you just can't get all the information out there. You know, you just can't, because there's just so much. But when the natives come, it's always name calling. It's always them trolling. It's never them sharing any evidence, right? You can't convince us that we're not who we are. You know, you can't convince us Lehigh that he's an African. You can't, because that's not who he is. You know, you can't convince us of these things. You can't convince, what's her name? Her name is, I'm supposed to say Yona. Her name's over A. You can't convince her that she's African because she's not. You can't convince any of us. You can't convince Chief Sekou or Sekou that he's an African, because he's not. He's not an African. We know who we are. And you trying to tell us who we are, that's dead and gone. You know, we're teaching our children who we are. When my son is old enough to understand, I'm going to teach him who he is and tell him to be proud of his ancestry, to be proud of his Choctaw ancestry, to be proud of his Muskogee ancestry. I'm not sure if my Muskogee ancestry is also considered Yamasee ancestry. I have to do more research on that. But my people were affiliated with the Yamasee. You know, I'm gonna teach them to be proud of that history. I'm gonna teach them to be proud of the Pamunkey and the Powhatan, the Chura. Oh, shit. What other tribe do I have? There's another tribe in the Virginia area, and this is all on my mom's side, by the way. I like on my dad's side, it's very hard to find stuff because he was in the foster care. So it's hard to find ancestry on my dad's side just because it's so messy on his side of the family. But on my mom's side, I got several tribes. Like that's wild, right? You know, some people find one, some people find two. I found several. What did I name already? Muskogee, Powhatan, Pamunkey, Chura, and there is another one. I can't think of another one, but anyways, there was another ancestor I found that was another tribe. But yeah, I'm gonna teach my son to be proud of that because that's who he is. We're not Africans, right? And when it comes to these tribes, I would caution people joining them. Like, I have ancestors that I can prove through documentation that were part of these tribes. But I'm not trying to join any tribes. That's just not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to get money or anything like that. Because that's what some of these natives say. Oh, you're just trying to get money, you know. No, that ain't what we're trying to do. We're just trying to get back what's more valuable than the money, which is our identity and even our land. Because there's a lot of land taken from us. But no, you know, I would caution people joining these tribes, like, be careful, you know, because, like, I wouldn't join the Pamunkey tribe. I wouldn't join the Powhatan tribe. I mean, look at these tribes. Look at those tribes. Look how most of the leaders in those tribes that are east of the Mississippi, how most of the leadership are Caucasian people. $5 Indians, pretendians. Like, those are the real $5 Indians. They're the ones who actually paid money to become Indian, right? While they moved the real Indians out. They moved us out west, or they told us, hey, you guys assimilate or die, right? So I would be careful with those tribes. And like I shared with you guys before, their leadership are Freemasons. They're Freemasons, so I would be very careful. Now, there are some legitimate tribes out there, you know. You do have some, you know, like the Chickahominy. They're legit, you know. But it's always, the legit tribes are always the ones that are struggling to get, you know, recognition. Those are the legit tribes. You know, your Narragansett tribes, you know, Chickahominy, Shinnecock, you know, those are tribes that I would recommend. Even the Yamasee tribe, you know, if you have ancestry there, you know, join those tribes because those are legit tribes. And yeah, they may not all have, their tribes may not be completely comprised of Negroes or people who are like mixed, you know, look mixed, like, you know, like mulatto, Creole, Melungeon looking people. You know, they may have white people in there too. Because some of these white people are actually, they do actually have some authentic American Indian ancestry in them, right? I watched this video some years ago where, I think I shared this in another video before, where a white guy, he was like, yeah, man, I know that I had American Indian ancestry. My grandmother was American Indian. But but when we searched, all we could find was just black people. And I'm like, dude, that's the American Indian ancestry. You just don't know it because you've been lied to, right? But yeah, man. I mean, those are, if you want to join the tribes, I would say, join those tribes if anything, because we have people in leadership in those tribes who look like us, but a lot of those tribes like the Pamunkey, Powhatan, and the Patawomic tribe. Oh my God, if y'all want to laugh, like I said before, if y'all want a good laugh, I'm talking about a real good laugh that's going to make you weak after you're done laughing, go and check out videos on YouTube about the Patawomic tribe. Patawomec tribe. Type that in on YouTube or even Google. I just envisioned one of the guys, man, where the headdress. It's hilarious. You have a bunch of people who look like they stepped off a boat from Germany, dressed in our ancestors' regalia. It is absolutely sad but hilarious at the same time. It really is. I almost feel like pulling it up right now just to get a good laugh, but I'm not going to do that. But yeah. We know who we are. It's not like we're trying to convince ourselves. It's not like, we're trying to convince others. But best believe these videos that we make, even though we may address the haters, we may address the Afrocentrics, we may address the natives and what have you, we don't make these videos for them. We make these videos for ourselves. Sure, you may see a video every now and then of us addressing haters, but honestly, majority of these videos we make for our own people and wake our people up, because there's just too much evidence. Like, it's just, y'all see these photos I have on my computer with all this information, with all these photos, just photos, mountains and mountains and mountains of photos, right? But y'all not gonna shame us. You can't shame us. We know who we are. Look at this. This is a Yuchi Indian, just like who I was saying earlier. They were a part of the Seminoles too, Yuchi Indians. So this is, like I said, this is why we depict ourselves as we are, because that's who we are. We are the American Indians. Anyways, that's all I have to say. I'll talk to you guys later. You guys and gals later. Peace out. Shalom.